This is Michael Jahns from RICHRATH Project 313.
Radio, 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 radio. Heard it on the radio.
And you're listening to Play That Rock and Roll.
Heard it on the radio. The song's about you and me. Heard it on the radio. Our life is just a mystery to me. Hey, baby.
In 1988, the end of 88, early 89, I was fortunate enough to live in a town in California called Thousand Oaks, which was it's like my second home. And I had opportunity to meet Gary Richrath. And Gary Richrath is one of the founding members of REO Speedwagon, the guitarist, and everybody that listens to REO Speedwagon, right away they think it's Gary, because Gary is the sound of REO. Well, through those time periods, Gary bought a ranch in Newbury Park, which is like in Milwaukee, it would be considered like Greendale and Greenfield. That's like Thousand Oaks and Newbury Park. They're right together like that. And my drummer actually ran into Gary at a convenience store. And, he noticed him right away. Being from the Midwest, we grew up with REO. So, and Gary said, "Hey, you look like you're in a band," because he had long hair and stuff. He's like, "Yeah, I play drums." And he goes, "Well, I live in Newbury Park. You live around here?" He says, "Yeah, I live in Thousand Oaks." He goes, "Let's jam." And this is like Gary Richrath, and so he came home and he's like, "Guys, he goes, I got this opportunity. Gary Richrath's going to come jam with us." And everybody said, "Yeah, right. Come on, that's not going to happen." And being from Wisconsin, we're Packer fans, big time Packer fans. So every Sunday we had people that, would invite us to their houses, because it was through the 80s when the Packers were very not good. Let's put it that way. They were bad. But we still were such diehard fans. We watched every single game we could, because if you got a chance to see the team live, you want to see them. And so we were doing a Sunday afternoon watching the game, and we get a knock on the door, and it's one of our roadies saying, "Gary Richrath's at our house right now." And I'm like, "Come on, he is not." And they dragged me from a Packer game, which never happens. And he was, sure enough, there he was in our studio in Thousand Oaks. So he started jamming with us, and obviously we knew Riding the Storm Out, and we knew Taking on the Run, and he had me singing the songs. So he's like, "Wow, you got a really good voice." He goes, "Would you like to do some demos?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, he was putting together the new REO album at that time, and Kevin was doing like a solo thing, and Gary was working with another singer called Tom DeLuca, who helped him do writing some songs, and they were doing some demos. So he asked me if I wanted to sing on them, and one thing led to another, and I was singing on his demos, and I said, "What the heck, this is great." And then he did the split where Kevin took the band and Gary did a solo thing, and I was Gary's solo front man, and we started doing all REO Speedwagons and new songs that I helped Gary write. And that was totally 1989, 1990. And we released the Only the Strong Survive album in 1992, I think it was. So, and it was a tour, nonstop tour. I mean, we toured everywhere through North America. So it started out with doing just Gary songs of REO and then originals. And then we started slowly doing some of the combo songs that he did with Kevin. And we took a few breaks through the time period. And then, like I said, the album came out. It did really well in certain areas, didn't do so well all over the place. The record company, there it is.
Yep.
It's a great album. It's a great album. We did a lot of stuff that REO did in the 70s there, because Gary basically produced it with Neil Norman from Crescendo. And it was a wonderful experience. I mean, we had the keyboard player from Frank Zappa do keyboards for us. All the original demos that we did on that original album was done with some of the REO guys, and then me doing vocals. And then, like I said, it did well, but then Gary still had some issues going on. And, I think Gary had enough depression going on that he just couldn't keep it going as like we wanted to go. We were kids, and he was going through a lot of the stuff that the REO thing was. He was kind of not so happy with the way things turned out, because it got worse toward the middle of the 90s and then later on, because he kept on having the repercussions of what happened to him in REO. And it was nonstop talking about what happened with Kevin and Gary, what happened with Kevin and Gary, and that's all anybody ever asked about. And he wanted to push on his new band more than anything, and the record company was not a big record company. It was an independent. They weren't going to put the support that CBS and Epic did for REO. And we just had to keep on, touring and touring. And, he was older. We were young kids, but, it takes a toll on everybody. And we were playing, 6, 7, sometimes we'd play 2 shows in a week, like 8 nights a week, we do 2 shows in one day. So it got the band super tight. I mean, we played and played and played, and we were really a tight band. And it finally got to the point where we had to kind of like take a break. And I took a break a couple times because it was too hard on the band, because Gary was having some issues, just nonstop playing it from bars to, theaters to festivals to bars, back and forth. And that's what really kind of happened. And, the guy's the nicest guy in the world. He's definitely, I consider him like a brother to me. He taught me so much, but it was a tough life. It was tough for us to be able to deal with it, because the end result was not what we wanted it to be, So, again, it's like you gotta make some money in all aspects of it, from writers to touring to everything else, and we never really got that. We never got over that big hump, and that's kind of like where that went. But that's where I am now, and I'm kind of I got a brand new album out, and that from that, all the demos that Gary and I worked with through the years, I still had, and I still have more. And we kind of, now that there's a digital age that we're in, we took some of the demos and put them on Pro Tools. Okay. And Gary's guitar and his background vocals, we just put them on Pro Tools, and then my new band played with Gary. We put that together. We started, I would say we started that 2 years ago out in LA. So we went out in LA and did all the basic tracks out in LA. And then Crescendo called me up and said, since Gary passed away, because Gary passed away in 2015, they wanted to try to, capitalize on that. I wasn't sure. I didn't want to do it right away, but then I thought, what, I want to give him his justice that, he deserves. And he didn't really get a lot of, people don't really rate him as one of the best guitarists or songwriters, and I think he is. I mean, like I said, you can pick up an REO Speedwagon album and not know that Gary Richrath played on that. Because right now they don't write anything new. They don't have anything. I was in the car today, like I was telling you, I was out and about. I heard Taking on the Run. I heard Riding the Storm Out just on the radio, classic radio, and it's like, it's every day. It's like constant, and you can hear that guitar just chirping and screaming, and that's Gary,